I'm Diego Cortez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker.
Full Tilt is the label that pays me.
We got to come up with a Scoop gang sign. We will for the next episode. Today we've got an excellent guest, Scott Seiver, and a lot of people may know him from online, where he's known as Master Blaster, and he plays the very highest limits. But he's also won a World Series of Poker bracelet, and he almost won the big buy-in
The
at
high
the
roller.
PCA, the high roller in the Bahamas. So this guy's legit, and he's a nice guy too.
Every time we get someone, I think that we can't have someone who's younger and smarter than the last guy.
Right, and more successful.
Here's
right.
a younger, smarter guy.
It's brutal, but
Yeah.
I like it. So it should be good. You're one of these guys who's had a lot of success and made your fame on the internet in large part, but specifically, it seems like you've got a reputation for heads-up play, which has obviously benefited you in tournaments and such. So I've got an 8-part, multi-part question.
As always.
Sure, not a problem.
But one is a heads-up action drying up by line? And what can be done about that? Because we've touched on this with a number of guests.
It's definitely different stake by stake. It's not so much that it's drying up, but I feel that people are becoming smarter with how good they are as an individual.
More realistic.
Yeah, exactly. Say 6 months, a year ago, everyone and their grandmother thought they were the best player in the world. They would take on everyone. Their egos were saying, I will play anyone, anytime. And for the best players, that was great for them. And I think more than the games drying up there are certain people that are just realizing what level of skill they actually are. And as people are better able to gauge their own skill level, it's making less games because you're not going to want to play someone better than you.
Their lack of bankroll has helped them gauge their skill level.
That's often the
I was going to
thing
say, a
that
lot
tips
of
them
times
off.
people have trouble gauging their skill level until the
Until
bankroll.
they hit zero.
Right, as an impact.
So is that why we often see there'll be a dozen or more heads up, mid to high or super high limit tables with one person sitting there, and you'll see the same guy on 6 of the tables, and then another guy on 6 of them, and they won't play each
Well,
other.
I feel that's a separate issue and problem as well. You have these people that are, say, normally $2, $4, or $3, $6 players that are sitting at every limit up to, say, 100, 200 on the hopes of landing the big whale. And then there's like an escalating arms race, basically, of people sitting at 5 empty tables, 6 empty tables, hoping that they increase their chance of someone sitting with them. And it's having what we see now with, 30 open tables and no one playing each other.
Right, that's a problem.
I mean, there's a lot of action, and the no-limit action has endured. It's just that the heads-up
certainly.
action specifically is harder to pull off, because of what you described.
I read a term yesterday that I hadn't heard, but I bet you've heard it. They call this bum hunting, where you just sit there
Really?
waiting for it.
Yeah.
that can't work. Okay?
Well, David Benefield was saying that he thinks that there should be at least some anonymous tables.
Definitely, I agree
And
with
I thought that was the best idea I'd heard in a long time. Now, the one problem is when you have certain sites, you don't feel confident in them monitoring any bad behavior. Anonymous tables are just a license to have bad behavior.
It's certainly something that at first hopefully would be tried at one of the more secure sites, and secondly I think should be started at the heads up tables because it's pretty hard to collude when you're by yourself out there.
I've tried that.
I would probably limit it just to the heads-up tables.
That's
for
a
that
very good
reason.
idea.
You don't want to have it in the full ring, but in a heads-up situation, if people know those are the circumstances and they know the site has a reputation for policing and for monitoring, then it can be to anyone's benefit, and it can also hurt you. I mean, you might jump in
Exactly.
there and you might be up against
Right, it's Phil
Patrick
Galfond
Antonius
or it's
Phil
you.
Galfond or
and-
whatever, but that's part of the fun of it.
Definitely.
Now, give us a brief, for those who don't know your whole story. How did you find yourself at such a young age playing at the highest levels of poker?
Well, basically, I went to Brown University, and I was in a fraternity there, and in my frat was Isaac Haxton, who at this time already was playing poker, was one of the bigger, if not one of the biggest winners at limit on party poker, back when the biggest game was they had 2 tables of 30-60.
Right.
And
Those were the nosebleeds.
yeah, those were the big nosebleeds,
Right.
the 30-60 limit game, and he was a big winner in those games, and I got really interested by watching him and whatnot, would talk poker strategy with him, And from that, basically decided to try on my own, was playing some sit and goes, some tournaments, did well, and have kept with it ever since.
You know, Brown is a fine Ivy League institution, as you know. It used to be that people who went to Brown, they'd become Nobel laureates.
Right.
Now they just all become internet poker pros.
players.
Exactly.
That seems to be a problem at a lot of universities these days where, I mean, of course, when we were in college, we had to go to the mainframe center and hook up our terminals just to have computer time.
This is
Literally,
true.
this is true. It's like in the mid-'80s. So it would be impossible. Now, I mean, the parents send their kids off to
Laptop in every
college
dorm
and
room.
pay
Right.
$30,000 tuition a year so that their kids can
A
play
laptop
online
was
poker all day.
unheard of.
Yeah.
I mean, just, we'll move on from this, but I was telling Diego that when I went to college, I had a typewriter, and I had a manual typewriter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you've also had success now. You won a World Series poker bracelet.
Yes.
Yeah, you showed up at 08 for your first World Series, is that right?
I had played several events in 07.
Okay, so, but you showed up this year and just knocked one out.
Played everything, yes.
Yeah. $5,000 no limit.
I like that. I mean, obviously the fields are so big that you can't draw a lot of conclusions from just a few results, but certainly there are a lot of players who've made a lot of money cash games online who are still kind of getting their footing in the tournaments. So in your case, did you just run well, or is there something specific that you adapted to the live tournaments? That's
Well,
paid off?
there's certainly a combination of both. It's impossible, and anyone that would say otherwise is lying, to not run well and to win one of these things. As I've said before about this tournament, and that running well can come in 1,000 different ways. Basically, on day 2, I got it in as a huge favorite, say like 15, maybe 20 times, but I held every time, and even
Right.
if you're an 80-20 15 times, that's running extremely well to win all those.
How do you?
It's also running extremely well to have people get it in with you with way the worst of it.
Exactly.
Well, I was going to ask,
Right.
especially in a $5,000 tournament. You know, that's the interesting thing about the World Series, which is you've got your $1,000, $1,500 tournaments where you see people you've never seen before, never will see again, and you see plays you've never seen before, will see again. But once you get to the $5,000, $10,000 events, except for the main event, you've got a stronger caliber of players. So how do you get it in? Big favorite every time, or just worked out, or you,
Well, a combination of
or do they
both.
underestimate you?
It's not so much underestimate as I feel that the good cash game players are going to understand the concepts of poker more in the deeper stacked issues that come up in live tournaments more than the online tournament phenoms, let's say. And it's more individual hands and analysis and theory and math that perhaps the standard tournament grinder might not see as much. But as you say about the fields, it was funny. On my starting table in the 5K, I was the second oldest person
Really?
at our full ring table,
Oh,
Brandon
wow.
Cantu being the oldest.
Old
So-
Grandpa Cantu.
That's
Right.
just
Exactly,
crazy.
it was wild.
Did you guys all know each other from online?
Yeah,
or
I knew about
exchanging?
6 of the guys at my starting table.
See, this is where, if I happen to run into you at the World Series, now, if you told me that you're Master Blaster, I'd know something about you. But
Right.
I wouldn't know your face until now, and that could be a big edge to be under the radar, and you know, you look like a fresh-faced kid, and you might get nowhere near the respect you deserve from old-timers like Diego here.
Well, even your name, you know, I mean, now you've made more name for yourself,
Right.
but if you show up there, even though you've been successful online, you say Scott Seiver, you go, okay, I don't know who that
Exactly.
is necessarily. So did that play any part or not?
Definitely
necessarily?
part of it, much less so this year than last year.
Yeah.
But what I truly think is that this works even more in reverse. For the people age 35 to 50, let's say,
The real
ones
old-timers.
no, just the ones that legitimately know how to play poker and understand the game. All these kids that are age 18 to 24 are just, you know, automatically assuming anyone over the age of 35 is absolutely clueless.
It's a
And
big dummy,
I
right.
feel there's the reverse effect happening where everyone's underestimating the older players that know what they're doing.
That's a very interesting point.
You just assume, oh, this guy has a little gray hair. It means I can run over him every hand.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
if you are in the gray-haired category like me, and you're willing to run a big bluff or run a multi-street play or whatever, there's a good chance that younger guys will give you no credit for being able to do that. So
Exactly.
the problem is some guys aren't willing to do that, but if you are, then you're definitely going to get credit.
I'm just sitting
You
there
know.
squeezing. Do I have this?
Oh, Dennis.
He's 4.
I feel in live poker, And this is something that certainly the internet players have really harped on really strongly, but it's always been the case, as far as I can tell, in the live poker world, that stereotypes are a huge part of, you sit at a table, you see a person, you know absolutely nothing about him, you have to take random guesses about how he's going to play. The only information you have is what you're seeing right there immediately. So
It's profiling.
exactly. So anyone that can play against their profile, I think, has a big edge if they aren't known.
I mean, I do find myself, and this is not necessarily fair, but if I'm playing online and I see that someone's from Denmark,
Of course.
Oh, certainly.
I call.
Yes, exactly.
I call.
Some real tight ABC Dane is going to win all the money out of these days for a few months.
Well, if one ever comes along.
Yeah, there hasn't been one yet.
I'm going to go register an address in Denmark and move there and just play there.
With your
and see what
style- with
happens.
your weak, tight
With my
style.
weak, tight style, and see how that works out. Did you play this to your advantage? I mean, did you feel people were stereotyping you, or did you take any active countermeasures?
I definitely feel that I have this image as being an overly aggressive, one of those new crazy young kids, and I feel that that really worked to my advantage, having people think that. I think that that's actually probably a better image nowadays than having everyone think you're very tight. Like 10 years ago, it was probably much better to have everyone think you were really tight,
Sure.
and that be a lie. You could just
steal
win
with
every
impunity,
hand.
yeah.
But nowadays, this doesn't happen no matter what
No.
the table. Everyone is understanding the relative worth of blinds all the time, and the game is much more aggressive. So to have someone think you're more aggressive than the standard aggressive, and that not be true, I think is even better now
So,
in the current games.
what are you playing now online? What are you focusing on? Are you still playing High Limit Hold'em? Are you playing PLO? What are you doing?
A little PLO, mostly no limit hold'em, and still the heads up and normal ring games as well.
You're one of these guys who's able to play like 20 tables simultaneously and such.
Yes, but I don't really do that so much. Definitely could if I
wouldn't
needed
even try.
to.
That's why I ask.
Now, you had a lot of success recently at the High Roller event down in the Caribbean.
Yes.
Tell us a little about how that went.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. It was possibly the most fun I've ever had playing any form of poker, live, online, anything. It was great. I knew all the people that were playing it, a very good group of guys. Basically had no chips for the first, not no chips, we got so many chips, but I don't think I gained a chip for the first, say, 7 or 8 hours of the tournament.
Unfortunately, the structure.
Oh,
didn't
the
penalize
structure
you
was
for
really extremely good. It wasn't just
One
that.
would hope.
It wasn't just that the initial level or two didn't matter, and then all of a sudden you're down to 50 big blinds, and oh look how good a structure we had.
Right.
You had 3 hours of meaningless play. It was a good slow structure throughout, and I just had a lot of fun and got lucky.
Bertrand Grospellier won that one.
Yes.
And he paid you a nice compliment, I think, after he said that he thought you were one of only a few guys who were actually playing to win. Like other guys were, and interestingly enough, even in the high roller event, were just sort of trying to sneak into the cash or get a decent cash, but you were trying to take it down.
I tried, certainly.
That's a very interesting comment, because my assumption really was anyone who's putting up $25,000 in a relatively small field where there's not going to be a huge overlay, you're playing to win at that point. Because if you're looking to make, some return on your investment, there are better spots. This is one where partly it's ego and partly it's the challenge of playing, and partly it's a chance to win a big prize for first. But you're not going to. Why would you enter a tournament for $25,000 to cash 40,000 or whatever? I mean, they're better. So I'm surprised. But did you concur with him that some people, when they got closer to the bubble or when it got to the pay spots, actually were not playing to win for whatever reason?
Definitely closer to the bubble, because the bubble was also the televised final table.
See, that's a separate
So
consideration.
you had these two distinct events that usually cause big bubbles to happen at the exact same time. So the night before, and it was about a 15-hour day, maybe even a 16-hour day before the bubble broke. So people were tired. We were shorthanded on 2 tables before combining to one. And definitely people were trying to just end the day and get there. But at the final table, I'd say that wasn't so much the case.
People were willing to gamble and play, even though, I mean, this is old style where the prize money really fell off sharply. I mean, this was now. I mean, this is another thing, not to beat into the ground the old-timer, new era, but when we started playing poker, there was a lot of money at the top, and then it would fall off pretty quickly. You needed to finish in the top spots. And now online, we see very flat payout structures, and even in the World Series and other tournaments, WPT tournaments, it's a much flatter structure than it used to be. And but this was one where, because of the shorter field and the prize money, big money in the first couple of spots, and then
Definitely.
you could make the final table and barely get your investment back.
Yeah.
So there's pressure there.
You also had a great run in the 25K heads up on Full Tilt. Is that right?
Yes.
Where and you finished? Where did you finish up there?
Semifinals, top 4.
And you enjoyed that event as well,
Well,
I
no,
imagine.
quarterfinals, top 8, I think, actually.
Whatever.
I think I just boosted myself up by 1.
And that had a lot of the people that you're used to playing, the guys who aren't sitting down with you in the live games, in the live cash games anymore, but now are
Right, you guys couldn't
playing
avoid
the
each other in
tournament.
that.
Right.
No, I actually got a whole group of players I normally wouldn't see playing at all, actually.
Really?
I got Aaron Jones, who's an excellent player who I have played a bunch of heads up before in the past. But then I had Steve Zolotow. I had David Singer, who went on to win it.
Oh, right.
Who beat me.
Right. Who doesn't play a lot of the big no limit online? Interesting.
And
Well,
someone else that I can't remember right now.
we were talking before we started shooting. The big prestigious tournament now coming up, especially for the no limit specialists, not to categorize you too narrowly, is the 40K event at the World Series, which I think is a brilliant marketing move on their part. I mean, that's responding to the fact that there are a lot of no limit players who are willing to pay $40,000 to play. I mean, 10 years ago, no limit tournaments in general were kind of dying off. The first event at the World Series would be a limit hold'em event because that would get more people. But now no limit's grown so much that it's just natural that people want to play a big money event. And I've been actually betting against Adam the fact that I think it'll be 300 people plus.
Well, the economy is doing so well right now that anyone just has
that's a big
40,000
thing.
to throw.
But
It's such a good economy. How can we not?
Right, you can't afford not to put it up.
Exactly.
Well, everyone can take their bonus. It's just a small part of your $1 million bonus that you receive from the bailout.
I don't know if you saw this in one of the earmarks in the stimulus package is everyone
It's a poker entry.
You get a poker entry in the 40K, yeah.
But you know,
I'd say under 300.
See, the funny thing is the economy obviously is in the pits. We see the effect in cash games, in casinos, even online to some degree. But that event, I think because it's early in the tournament, that's a big factor because it's right off the bat before people have been able to lose their money.
And everyone's
playing a lot
in
of
town
tournaments.
already.
Everyone's in town, and the winner of that event, I mean, to the extent that the glory is going to pay off both monetarily and otherwise, the winner of that event is going to really get a lot of respect.
Definitely.
I mean, I can see where, in the same way that the 50K horse kind of captured the imagination of the pros and became more prestigious than the main event on a certain level, especially for online players and no limit players who play a lot of online no limit, winning this event is going to be a big deal.
Certainly.
So you're going to win it?
Of course. I mean, I wouldn't play it if I wasn't going to.
So you're still a very young guy. You have a degree from Brown, is that right? Do you see yourself playing poker for the rest of your life as a career, or are you going to do something worthwhile?
What I always say is that the moment or the day I find something I'm truly passionate about and that I love, I will drop everything and do it.
Right.
But right now, I really enjoy poker, and it's great, and it's fun, and it's interesting and captivating me. So now, it's that.
It's not just a means to an end for you. I mean, it really does still stimulate you.
Certainly.
We're saving all these. We ask a lot of younger players this, and then we're saving them, and then in 10 years we're going to do a little study with the 7-Up movies or 14-Up or whatever. We're going to see who's lived up to it. But surprisingly, a lot of guys really are saying that they're already getting burned out or already kind of tired, except that they make so much money from it that they can't quit.
No,
but
that's
in your
definitely
case,
not
you're still
me.
challenged by it.
If I was burnt out by it, I'd have stopped already, because the money doesn't do you that good if you're not happy with it.
Well,
I'll take the money.
it's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks, Scott.
I can tell just from talking to you, you're going to have a lot of continued success.
Thank you very
You've got
much.
the
I
right-
appreciate it.
right
Thank you for
attitude.
having me on.
Anytime.
Fantastic. And we'll look for you online as Master Blaster and also in all the World Series and other tournament results.
Great.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Write to us at thescoop@cardplayer.com.
2 bracelets. Awesome.
Well, these aren't easy to win. Remember this one like it was yesterday. My opponent had me down to my left. Sorry. Anyway, down to my last few chips. So I had to call.
We play at FullTailPoker.com.